The next person that's going to intervene is not here with us, going to intervene from the Ecological Transition and Demographic Challenge Agency of Spain, of the Spanish government, Valvanera Ulargui. Hello, good morning, everyone. I am really pleased to be here with you this morning. My apologies for not being able to be there inside, but we have a lot of events. We just came back from Glasgow, and always when you come back, you need to talk and sort out a whole bunch of things. Firstly, congratulations to Madrid Subterra. Congratulations also for the role that you have played over the last few years and for the significant position that you've taken the ecological transition that has already started strong in many different arenas, in the international arena, the European arena, and the national arena, with a clear recognition of underground infrastructures as a source of energy, of renewable energy. The Glasgow summit sends very positive messages. It is true that there are diverse or divergent opinions, but I think the challenge that we had, the challenge of having a multilateral meeting after a pandemic, or in the middle of the pandemic, because the pandemic is still here, the challenge that we had or that we were facing of delivering good news in the sense of closing the gaps that we have, both in terms of mitigation, adaptation, and also financing, has been met by acknowledging, honestly acknowledging, that some countries are still not in 1.5%. That means this climate summit doesn't guarantee the 1.5 because all the commitments that have been discussed are based on the different analysis will take us to 0.7, 0.8% of global warming, which means we still need to go a little bit farther to make sure we can close the gap, but it does ensure that we're on the right track to achieving these goals. And why does it ensure it? And why do we have a positive opinion of the progress that has been made over the last few days in Glasgow? Well, firstly, because it updates the global goal that we have for emission reduction from the Paris Summit. And it also updates it in a smart manner based on science. The agreement that has been reached tells us that we have to work with the aim of ensuring 1.5 degrees because that will ensure that the impact will be much less. That will mean less flooding, less drought, less etc., you know. So based on the last report that was published in the month of August, it is clear that the common goal, the international goal, is to maintain that 1.5 degree as the target that needs to be reached. That's the sole target that should be reached and achieved by the international community. And that is something that is mentioned in the Glasgow report. In addition, it also tells us that in the short term, emissions should be reduced 45% compared to the year 2010. This is something new too, because that requires, or that implies a positive perception on my behalf, because in previous summits we were unable to quantify specific targets for the short and mid-term. Obviously, and this is my second message, we need to act urgently during this decade, not only thinking about climate neutrality in the year 2050, but no, in this decade, we need to start working on this. And that was something that was mentioned during this report. So in short, this is a conference that is turning towards a direction of multilateral governance in terms of a call for action and immediate activities that need to be rolled out. And that is perfectly connected with the work that has been done at the EU and the work that is being done in Spain, and how those goals of reducing 55% reductions, emissions, before getting to the Glasgow summit, which we believe is the responsibility of a number of countries, including Spain, that needs to be translated into a legal framework where that should take place. And we come back from Glasgow with the satisfaction of knowing that we had a positive impact. We led by example. We have carried out some goals that are based on science, and also we are hopeful that we will be developing a legal framework that will provide us with the structure that we need to ensure that the reductions and achievement of the targets will be a reality. And that is the work that is being done right now here in Spain. So we now have to make sure that we have the necessary funding, ensure the governments, the regional entities have to gain a space that should be focused on a specific goal, which is the decarbonization of the economy and a transition over the next 8 years, with the idea of having a clear legal framework, a stable legal framework with clear signs of what is the direction as specified in the climate change law, but also with funding that is commensurate with the goal of 1.5 degrees. What does that mean? That we need to start working in to develop governmental structures the, with the idea of rolling out policies that will allow us to achieve the goals that we have. And this should be done both at a private and public level. That's something that is mentioned in the Glasgow Agreement, which includes clear messages, such as I was saying before, for actions that are not only public, but also actions that need to be rolled out by the private sector, and also a sectoral call aimed at making sure that we decarbonize the economy and stop subsidizing fossil fuels. And the way we have of funding progress, funding development has to be in focus on the same direction. Based on the climate change law, Spain has already committed to analyzing where fossil fuels are being subsidized. So make sure we start decarbonizing our economy, which means defunding some of those activities. And also, and most importantly, since we're talking about new generation funds from the EU, what I think is very important is to set a clear guidance and set the clear idea that the funds will be spent in the fight against climate change. And here I want to say that the European and international and national framework have the same philosophy of how to spend those funds. And that is like that because we've allocated more than 40% of those funds to mitigation and adaptation policies with the idea of increasing the resilience of our country with green infrastructures and new green economy. And none of these funds will be allocated to any policy, any measure, any project that could damage the environment. In other words, we need to make sure that whatever is done has a green philosophy behind it. And this the system of standards that are going to be created by the EU is going to help us in that direction. So, in short, progress progress coherent with multilateral governance of the UN. With the expectations are always high, but you need to consider what is feasible. What is clear is that Glasgow said or has marked the direction that we all need to follow, developing new action plans to make sure that international monitoring closely follows up what the different countries are doing, a clear message at an industry level to make sure that we cannot continue funding the main contributors to global warming, and also a clear message to increase in the agenda and to have funding that is commensurate with the goals that we have established. And as I was saying, here in Spain, we're working on that direction. We're working on developing some of the commitments that have been reached in Glasgow, and now what we need to do is to achieve these targets without cheating on ourselves, to make sure that we're honest with regards to what has been established, making sure that we develop green infrastructures, underground infrastructures, such as what you guys are doing in Subterra. And we have the opportunity to develop that properly and present it properly. So I encourage you all to make sure that many of these infrastructures that are yet to come um, have a very green philosophy and a very green structure to make sure that we send the right message to citizens. Because the EU is going to come to see how we're doing things, and they will also come to see how that transition that is already underway can be managed and can be done in a way which entails or that helps us to comply not only with the environmental goals but also with the renewable targets, energy efficiency, and social objective. We need to be able to generate new industries in our country, an industry which is renewable, and to maintain in industries where we still have a significant gap the job positions to make sure that we ensure a sustainability of the economy together with the environmental.
Congratulations for your Congress. I'm really happy to say hi to all of you. I'm very glad that this has happened right after the COP in Glasgow, so that we could have a bit more hope in our messages, because our messages around the climate change are always very negative, but there is a silver lining after Glasgow, and we need to give value to everything we have achieved. I have talked about mitigation, but also the adaptation and solidarity agenda has yielded a great success in the UK with a direct impact in Spain. When in Spain we talk about adaptation, I mean, we are used to implement adaptation measures because we are subject to global warming. We are vulnerable and we are adapting. And now there is a cross-border move that will decrease risks in neighboring countries. All around the Mediterranean basin, there will be crises, both food crisis and migration crisis. So if we are able to deal with those by implementing adaptation measures, we will be okay. Adaptation has not been in the spotlight for many years, but it is a very important agenda. It doesn't have indicators, it doesn't have variables that allow us to make some kind of benchmarking. That is true. Uh, Adaptation goals are more qualitative, but there are tools and methodologies that will be implemented. And in Glasgow, we have seen those. We will choose, um, we will take a look at the different measures implemented in different countries. We will see what indicators are being used in vulnerable countries so that we can make the most out of them. Also, developing countries talking a lot about the losses and damages agenda. It is true that it has been a bit disappointing that we have not reached an agreement about this in Glasgow, but this goes beyond climate issues. The rest of agencies of the UN need to involve in this in order to give an adequate response to the impacts that many countries are suffering already. Those vulnerable countries cannot mitigate. They just need to work on adaptation, on relief initiatives, and Spanish companies can have a role there. We have great technologies with around water efficiency, green infrastructure, and we have interiorized the early warning system because, as I said before, we are a vulnerable country. For many years, we have been a vulnerable country. So there's a lot to do. The target is clear. In the next years, everyone will look into the future, and next generation funds will be essential for Spain so that we can generate and drive the industry and the solutions that are needed in order to face climate change and also the commitments we have made around climate change. Thank you very much. and good luck.